Thanks so much for tuning us in here on Local Decision 2024. I'm Eric Nelson, and joining us in studio here at North Metro TV, Dee Love, who's running again for mayor of Centerville. And Dee, good to see you.
Good to see you.
And I know you are the incumbent. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're choosing to run again.
So I'm Dee Love, as you mentioned. I've been on the city council for 16 total years. The last 5 serving as mayor. So I've lived in Centerville for approximately 23 years, and I've been in service between planning and zoning, city council for a total of 21 of those 23 years. For the entire 23-year time, I've been in some form of service, whether it was teaching Sunday school at our local church or coaching football and basketball. So I've been a part of this community and been delved in it for a very long time, and really love where we're at. The second part of that question is, why am I running again? And I love that question because I have to think back to, why did I get involved in the first place? So it was very interesting. Way back when, over 2 decades ago, over 20 years ago now, I had a couple of neighbors who wanted to put bridges across the retention ponds because they had their normal backyard, and then they had another space beyond that where they wanted to maintain their grass, and they wanted bridges so they could drive their lawn tractors over. And we're in the cul-de-sac talking about it, and they said, the city won't let us build bridges over our retention ponds. And they turned to me and they said, Dee, you should go up there and talk to them. Well, I don't want a bridge, but you know what? Okay, fine. I will be the guy. I'll go up there and see what's going on. So I went, attended a couple of different meetings, and I thought to myself, well, I don't have a complaint, but if I'm not willing to get involved, do I even really want to say anything? Do I have a place to say anything? So I raised my hand, got on Planning and Zoning Commission, spent 4 to 5 years on Planning and Zoning. Next thing I know, I'm the chair of Planning and Zoning for a couple of years, and then I make my way to council, and the rest is history. So that leads me to today. Every 2 years as a mayor, as a sitting mayor, you have to decide, do I want to put my name on the ballot again? Is this the time to do that? And the question you have to ask yourself is, am I still serving well? Am I serving well, number one? Number two, am I still making a difference? Can I still make a difference? And number three, am I enjoying it? And when I looked at those 3 questions before putting my name on the ballot this year, they were yes, yes, and yes. So here I am.
So a slam dunk. And metaphorically speaking, is part of the mayor's job building bridges and linking in a positive way to your constituents?
Absolutely. So it's not even just the constituents. It is building bridges across a myriad of opportunities. So I think about that. I think, okay, when a developer comes to our city, I'll pick Amazon, for example. The executives from Amazon came to town and they said, we want to meet with the mayor. Well, I don't make all the decisions. I make the decisions with the council. We make decisions together. No, we want to meet with you. And I thought to myself, wow, well, this is a little scary. I'm sitting in a room with these multimillionaires, who wants to come to our city. But I also hear in the background, they're closing facilities across the country. So do they want to come to our city? Has something shifted? Why do they want to talk to me? So I had to build a bridge, right? I had to let them know why Centerville was good for them, while also asking them to be a good neighbor to the rest of us here in Centerville, because we were there already. Have to build bridges to the neighbors. Have to build bridges across the council. I just mentioned I'm not a sole person that makes all the decisions. It seems that way because when you're the mayor, when you're the leader, if something goes great, you get a lot of praise. If something goes bad, you get a lot of blame. But ultimately, you don't get to make a decision. You could lose every vote 4-1 if you don't build bridges across the rest of your board.
So you're like a quarterback. Good or
quarterback,
bad, you're going to be in the line.
Point guard.
Yeah.
Sure.
So what would you say is going right at this point in time in Centerville? What are you proud of?
I'm going to point to 2 things that maybe are slightly off the radar, but we pushed real hard to get on the radar. Number one, we have a junior council member. And you say, well, why is that important? Well, it's important because it shows that we are inclusive. We want more voices. We want to hear from a demographic that maybe we didn't have opportunity to hear from in the past. And we're unique in that way. We now have other cities who have copied us, but we were first. We were the first ones to do it, and it was my idea, it was my push. I really wanted that. A second thing that I will say is the fact that we have what's called Centerville Cares. And that's a very simple idea. It's not something that we are going, boy, we're going out and we're feeding the poor or we're finding housing for homeless. But we can say, we know there are programs out there that can help people like that in our community, and we want to share that. We want to highlight it. We want to put it out there. So there's a couple of things that I'm proud of. It's easy to say I'm proud of the city as a whole. I mean, we've grown tremendously.
Yeah.
We have more households. We have more rooftops since I've started. We have more businesses since I've started. Our tax rate has gone from the highest in the county when I started to now being in the middle and being normal with everyone else. So there's so many things to be proud of. I could go on and on and on about everything that is going great in Centerville, but we only have so much time.
What do you need to fix? What would you try to improve moving forward if you're reelected?
So I love that question because I recently became a grandpa, 16-month-old granddaughter.
Wow.
And if that hadn't happened, hearing people say, our parks aren't good enough, you kind of go, yeah, I drive by them, I see them, they seem okay. Kids are playing. Mm-hmm. But now I go to the park with my granddaughter and I go, oh, I see. Okay. So then you visit a park in a neighboring community, you go, oh, we maybe are missing it a little bit here. So that's something I would like to improve. I would also like to continue, though, to work on making sure that we're hearing the voices in our community. We've tried amazingly hard. I mean, we've tried every idea out there that we can, but I still think there are things that we can do to continue to want to do that better.
Is Centerville still that gem, that oasis in the Twin Cities metro that feels more up north than, say, connected to St. Paul or Minneapolis? I
would say yes to that, but then I would also say I've had a great opportunity to put us on the map. When I first became mayor, I talked about handing out pens. I said to you, I got a pen for you if you need a pen. Well, my pen says Stronger Together, Mayor D. Love, Centerville, Minnesota. And I've handed these out all over the country anytime I travel or any restaurant I go to or anything else like that. Well, here in Minnesota, when I first started handing those out, the question was always, where's Centerville? I get that a lot less frequently now. And that shows me that I've done some things, we've done some things, our city has done some things to help us be more recognized across the state as a whole. Now, granted, if I leave the state, if I'm in Florida, sure. A person in Florida is not going to know where Centerville, Minnesota is. I say 16 miles north of St. Paul. But here in the state, that's a lot less frequent. But I still do hear it, so there's still work to do.
Higher density housing, that can be a wedge issue.
Sure.
Block 7 apartments. How should Centerville handle, either something like Block 7 or future developments that come up?
So I love that question simply because it's what's on the docket right now, right? It's what we're talking about right now. It's what our citizens are having talks with right now. High density housing. So there's a difference between an apartment and high density, right? Townhomes can be a high density, and townhomes are what we're looking at on Block 7. So you mentioned Block 7 specifically. Apartments, that's another topic, another issue. We tried to put an apartment up. Well, I shouldn't say we because it was a developer. It's privately owned land. We supported putting an apartment up, but ultimately that didn't happen. And we heard back from our citizens that that was not something that they wanted in that particular location. I still believe that as a city, it's important to be inclusive. It's important to be a city that wants to be welcoming. It's important to be a city that wants to provide housing for kids of ours who graduate from college. It's not lost on me that our kids graduate from college and there's no place in Centerville for them to live. But with that said, where's the right place in town? We're not that big of a city, so we're not going to grow that much no matter what. But I'll borrow an idea, and here's what's great about being a mayor, because you get to borrow ideas from other people. I'll borrow an idea from another city. We have a big plot of land out there. Maybe the idea is to put the apartment in the middle of that plot of land when it's ready to be developed, and then develop out from there. That way, people who are building homes know that they're building homes there versus having the shock of, hey, you're putting something in my backyard. And I understand putting something in your backyard may not always be fun, but ultimately, the city will grow, the city will change, and, do we direct it in its change, or do we just let it happen to us?
How do you approach controversial or complicated issues when they come up?
So I've been a leader with my company. I've worked at my company for 32 years, and I've been in leadership for the last 25. I've been a head football coach, a head basketball coach. I've been a varsity assistant coach. Controversy will come forward. And, as a leader, you have to be willing to stand in there and work through it. You can't shy away from it. You can't duck it. I've been mayor through COVID. I've been mayor through the riots. I've been mayor through lean economic times. And I've been mayor now while we have money in the bank and we have some ideas and some things that we can do. So it's easy to lead when times are really good and things are going well. It's a lot harder to lead when times are hard and things are difficult. But you just have to be welcoming, listening. Doesn't mean you always change. Doesn't mean you accept everything that someone gives you, but you consider it in the decisions that you get to make.
Let's talk about downtown Centerville. Absolutely. And I'm sure you're proud of a lot of things. I know Main Street Market, I've been to that a few times.
Lovely.
And that brings in people from other cities. You've got the water ski show that is, known all over Minnesota. Are you happy with where that is?
Downtown?
Yeah.
I think we have opportunity. There's definitely opportunity. You mentioned it though, Main Street Market, the water ski show. There's a vibe there that I think our downtown doesn't quite have. You asked me before we started today what I did over the weekend. I said we celebrated my wife's birthday, and I mentioned going to, well, I didn't mention Stillwater, but Stillwater is one of them, but I mentioned going to White Bear. I mentioned going to Hudson, Wisconsin. I mentioned going to Red Wing. Those cities have a vibrant downtown. They have a downtown that's not big, so we have the landmass to do it, but they have the shops, they have the restaurants, they have the people that want to be there. And I think we have that opportunity to do that. We just have to find the ingredients to make it happen.
Yeah, I was in Hudson, Wisconsin too recently, and I noticed the same thing. They've really got a core there. Now they have the St. Croix to use as kind of the magnet that lures people in. But you have the lake, right?
Exactly. So that is what we're looking for. That's the vibe we're trying to get. But, we haven't been successful with it yet. So that just tells me there's still things to attain.
Yeah. Budget priorities?
Well, I mentioned one of them. I think our parks need a nice little facelift there. But our budget is always going to be driven by public safety. And I'm proud of that. I'm okay with that because our public safety, our fire response is the best in the state. Our police department, you want to talk about integrated into the community? That's what we have. Sure, we could probably go find public safety a little cheaper in some way, shape, or form. But what we have right now is Gold Star, is a high standard, and we love it. I sat at the table, though, when it came time to make a decision on fire. I said, I know 2 of my council members normally sit on the fire board, but for this year, while we're going to make a decision on whether we go join Blaine, Spring Lake Park, Mounds View, gosh, I knew I was going to forget one of them. Whether we're going to go join their organization or not, and how we're going to organize this, I wanted to be at the table because to me, as a leader, as you talked about, that was a big decision. It was a controversial decision. And whether it was accepted or hated, at least I could say I was there, I knew all the ins and outs of it, and I made that decision. I helped make that decision.
You're from the south suburbs of Chicago.
Yes,
did you, when you were younger, imagine the journey would take you to the suburbs of St. Paul, Centerville?
No idea. I matriculated my way to Minnesota down in Winona just to play football and get a degree. Had a successful opportunity to do that. Came up to the Twin Cities. I had no idea I would ever be in leadership or a mayor. My gosh, never council. None of those things were in my dreams. But I've been blessed with this gift of leadership, which You know, every time I get involved with something, somehow I end up in a leadership role of some respect. And I take that in, you know, I take that responsibility because everyone doesn't have that blessing. And I'm very thankful for it, but I'm also cognizant of it that it's not just me, it's the people, it's my boards, it's my city staff, it's the citizens, it's the council. Those are the things that make you a leader. If you're just sitting on the throne, so to speak, and you know, there's no mayor throne, but if you're sitting on top by yourself and no one's following you, well, there's no leadership there.
Does your background in sports help you for this job? I mean, you've played, you've coached, and those are two different roles too. Does that prepare you for things that come down the pike? Because you don't always win in sports, do you?
You do not always win in sports. I will tell you, when I was playing in Winona, we didn't win a lot. But being on the field, playing, going through adversity, absolutely. I think it helps you in this role because it does. I talked about standing there and taking it and working your way through it when times are hard. That's what that taught me. You know, I became president of the League of Minnesota Cities a few years back, right as we were coming out of COVID. So all of the pomp and circumstance that normally goes along with getting into that role, I didn't get that initially. I stood in a room much like this behind a podium with a few people spread around the table, sitting 6 feet from each other, giving a speech saying, I'm so happy to do this for the next 12 months. This is exciting. I'm going to lead the entire statewide organization. But you know what? It was a tough start, but it was a fantastic finish because I made my way through it and kept working.
Why should the voters of Centerville reelect you?
I'm their guy because I've been here. I've been a part of Centerville leadership for the last 20 plus years now that I've been in the city. I've made great decisions. We're in a better budgetary place than we've been in a very, very long time. I don't want to count 25 years ago. I don't know. I haven't looked back that far. But as long as I've been around, we're in a better budgetary place than we've been. We're growing. We see the things around Centerville that is better than they ever were before. And I've had a hand in that. And I think I'll continue to have a hand in moving that forward.
Dee, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. God bless. We're stronger together.
Very good. He's Dee Love, running again for mayor of Centerville. This is Local Decision 2024.